Hey, Lowry, how are you doing today?
Hi, good morning. I'm doing really good. How are you?
I'm really good, thank you. I'm so glad that we could do this. Like, we talk in the group all the time, but to actually sit here face to face, basically, best that we can do, and actually talk is awesome.
It's fun. I'm really excited and I appreciate you asking me to do it with you.
Aw, thank you so much. So, I got my coffee here. Don't know what you're drinking, but
Fatty coffee. I
good.
today.
Yep. I've got a semi-fatty coffee. I had a huge fatty coffee first thing this morning because I was fasting for a few days. And so I did a super fatty. And then I really wanted another one. So I kind of did like a mini, fatty coffee, but it's very good anyways. I love it. So I know a little bit about your story, and I'm so excited to talk about it because a lot of times in keto, our main thing that most people talk about is weight loss. And that's super important for sure. But I love to talk about keto from a health perspective. It seriously gets me just so jazzed up because the power of keto for healing and improving health is just fantastic. So I'm so excited to talk to you about it. But first, I want to ask you, how did you get started in the first place, like at the beginning?
Well, it was about 2 years ago, I was diagnosed with a disorder called POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. It's a mouthful.
Yeah, I'm glad you said it.
I don't get enough blood to my brain.
Okay.
And so my quest started trying to find something to give me energy, something to sort of feed my brain, if you will, because I'm always tired. And when you don't get enough oxygen and blood to your brain, you don't feel good, you have headaches, you're lethargic. And I also get moments where I have brain fog, I can't think of things.
Wow.
I don't
Yeah.
anymore, though, and I guess I'll share with you why. So I was on the hunt for something to help, and I came across your MCT oil powder, and I started putting it in my coffee every morning. Um,
Right.
I went
That's
through
awesome.
probably 2 containers full, and then I came across your page on Facebook and realized that this is where I need to be,
Aw.
and this is what I need to do. And so I went completely keto about maybe 8 months ago,
Okay.
and my life has changed. I'm just a different person than I was before I started. One of the big things for my disorder is it's any of your autonomic body responses, like the way your pupils dilate, your digestion, your veins and vessels dilating. So a lot of people have stomach issues. They have acid reflux. They have I can't think of what it's called, but um, you're not regular. They have a lot of stomach aches.
Right. Like IBS and
That's what
Crohn's and things?
I
Right.
so by eating keto, I have realized that sugar and carbs are the hardest for your body to digest.
Mm-hmm.
Avoiding those, I don't have any of the issues that a lot of people with POTS have. So it has changed my life in a lot of ways.
That's awesome. Oh my gosh, that is fantastic. And so you must see a specialist or something or a doctor
I
about
go
it?
to Mayo Clinic. I have a neurologist there, but because of keto, I really don't need to be seen regularly by the doctor. I don't take any medications, which is very
Wow.
rare.
And okay, did you say the Mayo Clinic?
Yes.
Okay, and they didn't suggest keto when you were first going?
Nope.
That's really interesting because from what I've read, keto kind of started at the Mayo Clinic when they were trying to figure out ways to stop seizures. And so they were testing, something very close to what we would call the keto diet. And it worked so well for the seizures. And then they noticed people were dropping weight, people with diabetes were losing. So I'm a little bit surprised that your specialist wouldn't have suggested it, but that's great that you
Doctors,
figured it out.
they aren't trained in diet.
No,
If you
you're
ask a
right.
doctor who took how many credits on nutrition, it's zero. My husband had
Yeah.
colon cancer, and his oncologist said, eat whatever feels good. And I was astounded because I've always been into nutrition. And he went to a Mayo nutritionist and they said, I quote, eat what sounds good to you. So
That is crazy.
and I can do what's right for my family. And it's not always what a doctor says.
Exactly. I think that's a really great point that you bring up, because we really have to be the best advocates for our health. And so many people, and I'm just going to say, I just want to say this for the record for legal reasons, that I am not a doctor or health practitioner. But so many people will be like, well, no, my doctor said, oh, no, my doctor said, I can't do this or whatever. I hear that all the time. And it's like, do your own research and see what works for you. I'm not saying don't do what the doctor says, but try some things yourself and just see how that works for you. I mean, you're a perfect example.
Nutrition is the way that, I can't, when my husband had cancer, I can't cure his cancer. He did chemo, he did radiation, but I felt helpless and I was so scared. And so what could I do? I could look into nutrition. And I could feed him and feed his body and just empower his body to heal itself. And so that's what I did. And he is cancer free now. And speaking of, his name is Justin. He also got on the keto train just after I did. And the main reason that I think it's important for him is I believe that sugar feeds cancer. Yes. And he has, he had stage 3C colon cancer. So pretty advanced stage. Yes. And I mean, I'd do anything for it not to come back. And so him avoiding sugar and carbs, I think is a good route, to take. What do we have to lose?
Exactly. What do we have to lose? Do you know what I say? Just as just a, shits and giggles kind of deal. But, when people are like, well, that sounds kind of weird, or what you're doing there, whatever. And I said, well, what are most people doing? And is it working? Because I don't really think it is. There's a lot of people with a lot of diseases out there, and they're doing the traditional, my doctor said, and it's not necessarily working. So what do we have to lose by doing this? And yet tons and tons and tons of studies saying that this actually is, the best way to go anyway. So put those two things together. And I think
the only way I will ever eat, and I'm pretty strict. I've always been one to sort of, I have very good willpower. So for me, it was really easy to cut back, and I don't want to cheat. I don't desire to cheat. But sometimes if I want a bite of cake, I'll have a bite of cake. Right. And like at Thanksgiving, I tasted every dessert, but I was okay with just a taste of each one. Yes. And, you don't have to deprive yourself. I make some keto treats that are just as good as, carby.
Don't you find, though, that you've been doing it for 8 months now, and like my taste buds have just changed completely. Like you're saying about a taste of cake, I couldn't even eat a whole piece of cake if I wanted to, because it truly just doesn't really do much for me. Like I'll take one bite and go, yeah, that's great, relative or whatever. And it tasted good, but that's all I truly want. It's not like, oh, I'm being so good. Do you feel like that too?
I do. And I believe that when people cut it out completely, if you can truly stick to the keto plan for 30 days, yes, you will realize when you do eat that piece of cake, you feel like crap.
So much.
And your body, after being clean, when people eat crap all the time, they just feel like crap all the time. Yes. And they don't isolate why. But if you cut it out completely, you will realize. What I found out is I can't have corn. If I eat corn, my POTS symptoms are 100-fold, whether it's a tortilla chip or any kind of corn. Last night I had a handful of cornflakes. Don't ask me why.
One of those deals.
Got some for the kids as a special treat, and they were like honey nut or something. And I had a handful, and I felt horrible this morning. And I know that's why. So
what are the main things that you feel when you do something like that?
Really, I get a headache. So it draws more blood to digest those type of foods. Right. So I'm already at a deficit of blood in my brain. It pulls it more. Sometimes I can't talk if I have a lot of carbs. Before I did keto, after a meal, my family knew, like I just sat at the table. I couldn't get up. If I got up, I would probably pass out because all the blood is being used in my stomach. There's not enough for my brain. Wow. Sometimes I would forget what I'm saying. But it doesn't happen on keto. Right. It happens when I cheat. And I've told so many people about keto, and it's just people don't understand. I don't really get why people.
I know.
It's not healthy. You're eating all that fat. There's a movie out on Amazon. I think it's called Fat.
Oh, no way. Really? I haven't heard that.
And it's not the best, but it does talk about, basically our food pyramid and how it's just quack, but they can't admit it because we've run our, economy on it since 1980, I believe. So,
at least since then.
And they recommended all the carbs and fruits on that food pyramid. I mean, cancers have increased, diabetes has increased, and I don't know, it's astounding.
Well, just the other day, it was National Diabetes Day. And so I just happened to, I knew it was the day, and I said something in our Facebook group about it, but then I happened to catch just a little thing on the news, just my local news. And they had a little thing and they were saying, things are really not going well in the diabetes world. And they sort of had a graph and they were showing how many people now are diabetic compared to, X amount of years ago. I don't remember. And it's like, it's rampant. Like, it is worse now than it ever was before. And you know how many people I've heard in the group say, before I started keto, my dietitian or whoever it was that was guiding them through their diabetes, they were on it was like 70 grams of carbs a day, or so. It was super, super high. And they said their diabetes got worse following the diabetic plan.
Correlate that carbs break down into sugar.
I know. I mean, it makes, to us, we think it makes such logical sense, and it does. And so when you're telling somebody else or talking to somebody else about it, and they're just like, oh, I just don't get it or whatever. But, I guess it's a process and it takes time. I know, truthfully, I'd heard about keto probably about, I'm going to say 4 to 5 years before I actually did it for myself. I had heard about it from just some person that I was kind of following. And I thought at the time it was a little bit crazy, to be honest with you, because back in those days, it was all about no fat. It was about fat-free, everything fat-free. So
but I think what people don't understand is that if you're in ketosis, you are burning fat as energy. It's your fuel. And so if you cheat and have carbs, it's not going to work. But if you do it right, the fat is fuel, you burn it for energy, it's cleaner for your body to burn, and it also feeds your brain, which I found out.
Yes.
And I have so much energy now. I can't believe awesome. My husband, he's lost too much weight, and so he kind of cut back a little bit, and then he was like, whoa, I'm not in ketosis and I know it. And he was like,
so did he increase his fat and his protein, or
he just sort of cheats a little bit here and there now because he was losing too much weight. So we're adding back fats. He's maintained, he's stopped losing, which is good. But what other diet can you eat whatever you want, basically? And worry about, losing too much weight. I mean, it's people's dream, right? but he realized how amazing it is when he, went off of it a little bit to gain some weight. And he said, there's no way I'm going off of it again because I feel so good. And I have had joint pain. My knee's been bothering me for years, and I have a shoulder. I have some ligament issues. That's completely gone now. Completely gone.
Isn't that amazing? I actually thought I needed a knee replacement. And even before I started keto, I went grain-free. That was just something that I did on my own. And I noticed a huge difference in my knee. And then when I went keto, it's completely fine. I mean, I work out all the time. And before, I could even barely do the stairs. Like, I would have to go one at a time kind of thing because I could barely move. Now I run up and down the stairs all the time. I work out all the time and my knee is perfectly fine. So, according to the doctor, I needed surgery. And now no surgery.
So. It's inflammation from the carb.
Totally. Yeah, and it's incredible.
Also, I've always been into fitness. I've gone to the gym 3 times a day for the last, 10 years.
Wow.
Just since I've been on keto, my body has changed. The muscles show. I have a 6-pack now. Whereas
wow. I saw that picture of you. Your baby.
Carbs that. Thank you. That layer of fat just hung on, even though I was fit and eating right. How I thought eating right, I can't believe the transformation with the same working out, the same amount of activity, just eating keto.
Yes. Yeah. Well, what's that saying that I mean, I've heard this many times, but it makes so much sense. What you're saying is abs are made in the kitchen. I I mean, you can exercise all you want, but if it's sitting underneath that layer of fat, no one's going to see it.
No one's going to see it. Yeah. And it's exciting for me to be at that point. And I'm almost 40 and I've never felt better about myself. I've noticed that my skin has, you know, maybe gotten.
Your skin is flawless. Your skin is gorgeous. It's like porcelain.
Thank you. It's the keto. And a lot of people worry I don't want to eat too much protein. I only have 50 grams of protein a day, and I have about 100 of fat, and it's really easy to remember. And I eat about 16 grams of carbs a day.
Right. That's great. That's awesome. And, you know, and that's a really good point too, is that people really need, you know, we get the standard keto, right? Like this percentage or whatever, but everyone has to do what's right for them. And I'm insulin resistant. So I find I've had to tweak it too. I keep my fat higher and I keep my protein a little bit lower, unless I'm doing just a one-off high protein day just to kind of mix things up or whatever. But generally I keep my protein a little lower than recommended because that can also increase your insulin.
How much protein do you have in a day?
I have like around 60. So that's usually pretty average for me when I'm tracking, because I'll be perfectly honest with you, I don't always track because I do a lot of intermittent fasting. I do a lot of OMADs, 1 meal a days, and that kind of thing. It's not always necessary for me to track, but on the days that I am tracking, that's about where I keep it.
And that's good for people to know too, is once you understand keto, once you know you're in ketosis, you don't really have to track anymore.
Yeah.
You get into a routine of what works for you food-wise, and you know, it doesn't have to be hard. It can be fun and
totally. Oh yeah, fun. I mean, honestly, like at first when people first start, a lot of times I think it's a little bit overwhelming. There's a lot to learn or whatever. And the tracking is very important at the beginning, because if you don't track it, you're not going to get into the zone. And like you said, 30 days, no cheats. I even hate to use the word cheat, you know, but that really is it, like 30 days of doing it the right way. And then after that, you can kind of be a little bit more, you know, flexible with it. And yeah, I love the idea of just kind of like organically eating keto, how it works for me. Like I've been doing it long enough. But I will say that, you know, I'm now in the final stages of my fat loss. And I did that 3D body scanner that I think I was telling you about. And so, pardon me?
Did you do it again today?
No, I still have a couple more weeks to go. But so by doing the scan though, I found out that I, you know, in order to get to my, what would be considered my perfect body composition, I need to lose 20 more pounds of fat. So that's not 20 pounds on the scale. I really don't care about the scale, 20 pounds of fat. And that's just like a really interesting concept, you know? So you're eating for the fat loss, you're eating for health, and we're not even really worrying about the scale. You know, it's just not, it's not the best indicator of health, I guess.
True. And it's nice for me. I've always kind of been obsessive about my weight and what it was my whole life, possibly restricting calories because it wasn't healthy. I have never eaten more in my life, and I don't worry about it anymore. We went to a all-inclusive vacation in Mexico.
Yeah.
I just made keto choices, but I ate all I wanted. I gained 2 pounds in 5 days, and it was gone like right when I got home. Those 2 pounds went off.
That is fantastic. Well, I'm going to have to get some tips from you, because I think our family's going to go to Mexico in January. So I'll have to get some good, and it's an all-inclusive too. So the best things.
Skinny margaritas.
Pardon me?
Skinny margaritas.
Yes. 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 Vodka waters. Yep. That sounds good. So, okay. I wanted to ask you, what advice would you give to somebody starting brand new in keto? They're a little overwhelmed. What kind of advice would you give them?
Well, first, I think they need to have all of your products.
Thank you.
And I was not paid to say that. Your BHB salts, they got me past the keto flu. I think you remember I asked in the group.
Yes.
Going on vacation. They're there. I was going on vacation the next day, and I woke up and I had to prepare and pack, and I stood up and I was so dizzy. I'd probably been on keto 28 days. I mean, I just thought, what is going on?
Right.
And I quickly wrote on your page, and you said it's probably keto flu, and I had a big scoop of your BHB salts in my water, and within 45 minutes, I was totally fine. So
awesome.
It's a must. And I use it after every workout because it really gives you energy when you need kind of an energy boost if you don't want to have more coffee.
Right.
It's sort of a clean way to get energy.
It is. Yeah. And it's all 100% natural. So it's totally clean. Pardon me?
It tastes good.
Oh, yeah, it sure does. And I have a new one coming out. So be surprised. New flavor.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
I think, you just have to do it for yourself. Don't do it for anyone else, and do it for your health. Don't do it to lose weight. You will, probably, if you need to, probably. Just do it to feel good about yourself, to have energy, and to live your best life. And give it a good 30 days try, and don't listen to what other people say.
That's super good advice, honestly, because that's what we hear people say it in the group all the time. They'll say, "Oh, I'm doing so good, but my husband is, this, that, and the other, it's whatever." And you have to do what's right for you and be the best advocate for your health.
Exactly.
It's not selfish.
No,
it's not selfish at all.
And once people get into keto, into ketosis, you won't have the hunger, and then it's fun to start playing around with it. OMAD, 1 meal a day. I love doing OMAD. And then I get so excited for my meal and planning it. And, what am I going to have? And sometimes I don't even want the whole meal by then. But
I know.
Just make it fun. Make it exciting. It is a little bit of work. You do have to prepare. You do have to plan ahead. But once you get used to it, it's a cinch.
That's really great advice. And I'll also say that, you have kids, you have a very busy life, and you still do it. And I would guess to say that your kids eat very healthy because you and your husband, right? So this is, you probably give them more carbs, but
we raised them really clean. I didn't allow a lot of processed foods, no food coloring. I do believe that nutrition is so important, and I always have. And I do make them, a garlic toast to go with their, keto squash and sauce and meatballs. And I don't know if that's right, but I do feel like they're not in ketosis. They need the carb.
Right.
When they're ready and when they make that decision, I will embrace if they want to go keto.
Right. Well, they're eating like probably 95% healthier than I would say the average child is. Like, I think that's just great. And you guys have embraced it as a family. When you travel, you're still doing it. I just think it's awesome. The health things that you and your husband have overcome is just so inspiring. And thank you so much for coming on, because I think there's a lot of people out there that are struggling with different health issues, and yours are significant. They're just not like little tiny things. And look what you guys have achieved through a ketogenic diet. So
I heard that 50% of people with POTS, what I have, aren't able to work. So, it's a real disorder, and I have found a way to tame it through diet. And I actually have you to thank, because if I hadn't tried the MCT oil powder, and it brought me to you and this whole way of living. And my son says, it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle. We're embarrassed to tell people we're on a diet because we're and so it's his mantra. Like, it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle. And it is.
You say your son said that?
Yes.
How old is your son?
He's 12 and a half.
Isn't that fantastic? Like now that's the message your kids have. When we were young, it was always I was exactly like you. It was calorie in, calorie out, starve yourself, be hungry. It was deprivation
every day.
all the way. And even when you were eating like that and you were depriving yourself so much, it wasn't nutrient dense. It was like, diet cookies and like just crap stuff. And that's what we grew up with. And that's what we learned when we were young, at least in my house, that's how it was. And now for your kids to say, this is our healthy lifestyle. It's not a diet, it's a lifestyle. That's so great. So much hope for the next generation, That's so great. That's awesome. Oh, I'll just show, just in case anybody's wondering. This was the MCT powder that Lowry's talking about. It's really great.
To go to a desert island, that's what I would take. One thing. That's it.
Desert island. Oh, that's a good question. We should say in the group, if you have to go to a desert island and you could only pick one product, what would it be? That's a great one.
And that's the one.
Oh, that's so. Yeah. You know what? I would say that would be mine too. Either that or the oil, the straight oil. One of the two. It would definitely be one of the MCTs. I just cannot live without it.
Mhm.
So, Lowry, thank you so much for coming on. This is so inspirational, and it's so, in the group we talk about so many things, but I think this is great because I mean it's on YouTube, and so other people will get to see it and hear your story, and it's just so inspiring for people that are dealing with health issues. So thank you so much.
Well, I'm honored, and I appreciate you, hearing my story and for being such a big part of my wellness and my husband's wellness.
Thank you so much. That really means so much. And I will see you in the group.
Okay.
Okay. Bye,
Thanks.
Lowry.
Bye.
Bye. Hey guys, before you go, hit the like and subscribe button if you haven't already, and hit the bell notification so you can be notified every time we have a new video posted. Also, down in the description, I will have links to everything that we talked about in our chat today, including information on how you can join my Intentionally Bare Keto support group. See you next time.